Welcome back to another thrilling, exciting episode of Beyond the Campfire. I am one of your hosts, Stephen the Indian, along with Will the Cowboy. We're a cowboy and Indian that talk about ghost stories, cryptids, conspiracy theories, all alike. So, if you like that kind of content, be sure to subscribe and you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Beyond Campfire or at Beyond Campfire Podcast. Be sure to connect with us. Will, what do we got today?
Well, I am telling you what, I think we've got a pretty freaky episode. So when you were like exciting, I was like, this might not be exciting because it's kind of terrifying. Today we're talking about not the movie, but the shady organization known as the Men in Black.
Men in Black. I gotta say, when you said freaky at first, I'm like, okay, are we talking about freaky as in scary, or are we talking about freaky as in something else? But anyway.
I think it could be a mixture.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, all right. I guess we'll find out.
it's a mixture because like I would say like on terms like when we talk about who they are and we kind of try to figure out who they could be, they are pretty scary. Not just because they're like intimidating scary, but because of what they do. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Men in Black. The way we're gonna break this episode down for you is I'm gonna kind of tell you a little bit about who they are. Then I'm going to go into what they could be. Then we got some eyewitness accounts, and then we got our own ChatGPT story of us encountering the Men in Black, and then we'll give our thoughts at the end. So it should be a fun episode. But I will tell you, if you watch this one without the lights on, just be careful.
No.
Um, I would say on terms of scariness, they're not up there with the Black Eyed Children, although they could be.
So it's going to be really a case by case basis. Is what I'm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um. So yeah, the way I'm going to tell you this is okay. So we're going to start off with who these guys are, what they do, and everything. Okay. So Steven, let's say you're over here at the farm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me and you witness a UFO flying overhead. And we know it was a UFO.
Right. Right.
We might be visited by tall, pale, expressionless looking men in black suits. They might have dark sunglasses on them, might be wearing like a fedora. And they are going to intimidate us. They are going to tell us to keep our mouths shut about what we saw. If a UFO crashed and we did take a piece of the evidence of the ship, they might pressure us and tell us to give them the piece, which they will then destroy. And that's who the Men in Black are. Who are like, why are they doing this? So yeah, like I said, they wear suits, sometimes hats, sunglasses, and when they're talking to us, they almost seem very much robotic. You know, kind of like the Black Eyed Children in a sense, but they're the grown version.
I was going to say we definitely got some interesting behavior going on from these men, these creatures, because they
Yeah,
sound like they're close to being human, but maybe not quite human.
yeah. So here's the strange thing about them is they somehow know exactly my full name, which I'm not going to give out, and they know your exact full name. They know everything about us, every little detail about us as witnesses, and they can use this information to bribe us, to blackmail us, or to threaten us into keeping our mouths shut or to giving up evidence.
Yeah, sheesh.
Um, they are sometimes described as being non-human or, like we said, supernatural in nature. So they might appear human, but they're just some slightly off.
Something is. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it almost reminds me of one of my favorite creatures, the not deer. Right? It's like it looks like a deer. It
But
kind
it's
of
not.
acts like a deer, but something's off. Maybe the hooves don't look right, or the eyes don't look right, or the
Mhm.
antlers are apart. Like there's something to give a clue that this is not exactly the normal run of the mill type of creature. So
Yeah.
okay,
So the term for and when we get into the encounters, the term for them really popped around the 1950s, and then it was that was when it was kind of coined. Like people were like, "Oh, there's the Men in Black, the Men in Black," and then it did not really take off. Like there was obviously people that witnessed these men, but the idea of them did not really take off till the 1990s when the Men in Black movies came out. You remember those with Will Smith?
yeah.
That's when like the idea of these guys really started popping off, and people were like, "Wait a second, what is this?" You know?
Well, because even that movie was based off of reports of Men in Black already happening anyway, right?
Yeah. So the first real mention, I guess, of the Men in Black was there. We have one case that took place in the 40s, which will kind of some of these we might not fully go over too much in depth, just because these can be like part of a UFO. They just happen to have been encountered by the Men in Black after these incidences.
All right.
But there was a guy who we'll get into later. Um, he wrote a book and was kind of it came out in the 63, I believe, and that's what was talking about the Men in Black.
Neat.
And then they kind of took the idea of this shady organization that investigates aliens, and then they made the movie.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember being a kid, and I quite liked the movie. You know, I liked them having
Mhm.
their like space guns and fighting giant cockroaches and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
the
but yeah,
talking pug is the real star.
oh for sure. The movie though makes them look like good guys. Like they're doing the right thing and they're protecting people and their interest. But when we're talking about these in real life Men in Black, if they do exist, there's something more nefarious going on. Like these aren't this isn't Will Smith and um I forget what the other guy's name was, but you know this isn't them pulling up with their space gun saving the day. This is them possibly hiding something, right?
Yes, and some of these theories will kind of explain possibly um, the reason why they could be doing what they're doing. Because there's one theory we'll get into later about actually a good reason why they're doing this. There is one good reason out of one of these theories. Um, but yeah, we're gonna kind of run through these. I think I got again like the hard part with like or the sad thing with the Men in Black, the Black Eyed Children, is telling who they are. It takes like 5 minutes because they're shady guys in black suits that roll up and threaten you if you've seen a UFO.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you know, it's not a super complicated topic, especially
No.
I think most people would already know who they are either based on the movies or even if they're thinking beyond the movies. It's like one of those things where like yeah, people kind of have a general idea because of the pop culture already. So
Yeah.
beyond the movies, maybe someone picks up that podcast idea one day.
I have thought about that. I just, talk about classic movies,
All right. So
because that's a podcast that could go on forever.
I know, yeah. See, the thing is, we need to find people that will host these podcasts because obviously you and me can't talk about everything, right?
So yeah, if you want to do a quick interjection here, we're going to throw an ad in the middle of this thing. If you or somebody wants to start a podcast, please email us at beyondthemediallc@outlook.com.
There you go. Beyond the media, we are here for you. We're a
Mhm.
company. We want to help you. We want to help you grow. And I mean, obviously, we're looking to build our thing too. But hey, you build us up, we build you up. It's a mutual building.
Yeah, and this is going to be a great job. If we take off and we do what we need to do, this is going to be the best job in the world. I'm telling you. Email us.
So anyway, I was not intending for that to turn into an ad, but I randomly said beyond the movies, and I was like, oh, I can't let that go. I got to say something. So
All right. So yeah. So who are the Men in Black? Um, are they men doing their job or guardians of a bigger truth? So the first theory we have is that they're government agents or intelligence operatives. So the theory is that there could be real agents from a secret branch of the United States government or military, such as the Air Force's Project Blue Book, which we will get into Project Blue Book at some point because that kind of deserves its own episode. If you don't know what Project Blue Book is, the idea of Project Blue Book, just to quick summarize it, is the government fakes an alien invasion to establish the one world government.
Sheesh.
Yeah, Project Blue Book. Really
We'll have,
creepy stuff.
we'll have to do a episode on that.
Oh yeah, we've been needing to. Or a shadowy division like the NSA or the CIA.
Okay.
And
Just
this branch's main purpose is to suppress information about extraterrestrial encounters to avoid public panic or protect advanced tech secrets. And the only reason why people could be thinking this, the support for this theory is that, like I said earlier, they would know everything about us, kind of like a government agent doing a background check on somebody and then going, you know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
So, and then apparently also their behavior mimics known Cointel Pro style intimidation, which I guess is a type of intimidation used by federal agents. So,
Yeah. Very interesting.
yeah. So, could the MIB be some sort of secret branch of the government?
Yeah, and you guys know how we feel about the government on this show. So
We hate them.
one of us is slightly more favorable to the government than the other, but generally speaking, all of us we all have our fair share of skepticism about
Yeah.
the government and its proceedings.
So, how do you feel about that? Do you think that they could be?
Yeah, I mean, I know you'll get into some of the other theories, and some of the theories will suggest that the Men in Black are non-humans themselves. But for me, I'm like, okay, yeah, if aliens do exist, and the government knows about them, and the government doesn't want the public to know about them, then yeah, you would make an institution like the Men in Black. You would try to protect the public from knowing about aliens and what they are and what they're doing, and so an agency where men show up to alien sites and try to do a cover up. Yeah, I mean that's perfectly in line. There's lots of stuff the government has covered up before. So if aliens exist and they don't want us to know about it, Men in Black seems like a perfectly obvious agency that they would make.
Yeah. So the next theory, I forgot to leave out a very key detail. So a lot of people have encountered the Men in Black. As soon as the Men in Black are done interrogating them, they just vanish. And when I say vanish, I mean they just completely disappear. One story we get into later about somebody who encountered the Men in Black, there was no way that they could have driven off because this person would have seen them drive off. But they are known to vanish. And that leads into the next theory, which is that they're extraterrestrials in disguise. Basically, the Men in Black aren't human at all, but aliens attempting to blend in to, the humans very poorly. And that's because a lot of people have noticed that they have odd speech. They're a little bit robotic. They got strange facial features to them, and they are very emotionless.
Yeah, and this gets into the what I call the Men in Black are non-humans. I
Yeah.
won't necessarily say aliens, although I mean I know probably that's going to be one of the theories. Uh, but yeah, it's like they're going to do things that humans can't do.
Yeah, and so that's the reason. And so the support for that theory is because witnesses often describe them as kind of being a little bit off, like they don't understand basic human behavior. And going back to, like I told you, where there are some cases where the Men in Black just vanish into thin air, where they go. People think this could be teleporting or something of the matter, like cloaking device, maybe.
Have you seen the show Invincible?
I've been wanting to watch it.
You should watch it. I'm watching the second season right now, but this is a tiny spoiler. But basically, this Martian comes to Earth, and he's trying to pretend to be a human, so he shapeshifts into a human. But yeah, he's like walking around, and obviously because he doesn't know how to be a human, there's just some social cues that are off. But because he'd be like, "Hello, everyone, I'm totally a human that was born on planet Earth," and it's like, okay, dude.
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but when you said Men in Black, there's something off about them to show they're not human. It made me think of that character from Invincible. So,
Yeah. So that's basically that theory, that it could be aliens. Um, and like Steven said, yes, the next theory is that they actually could be not aliens, but interdimensional beings.
mm, trying to
Um,
protect aliens.
so the idea is that they're entities that phase into our reality from another dimension, and they're not bound by our logic or our physics, which could explain the reason why they vanish, the reason why they look weird, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This apparently could connect them to shadow people, the Hat Man, or paranormal glitches. The reason people believe this is due to their appearance often coincide with other paranormal activity. So they don't just appear during aliens; they can also appear during other supernatural encounters. We'll get into I'm not going to go too long into one of the. Actually, I'll just go ahead and say it. They have been People claim that after the Mothman incident, that people were seeing Men in Black.
Very interesting. Okay.
So they don't just show up when there's aliens. They can show up when, like you and I, we could go see the not deer, and then they could come up to us and be like, delete the footage.
Yeah.
You know,
Wild. And
um,
and again, they're protecting something. So again, whether it's the government protecting secrets, or in this case, intergalactic dimensional beings protecting something else, it's just like there's something they're hiding for sure.
mhm. And the other thing to kind of like, kind of pull into as well as the whole vanishing thing. Like we said with aliens, it could just be like a cloaking device or teleportation, or if we're going off interdimensional beings, it could be them phasing out of our reality into theirs. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Phasing in and out of our reality.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Or like shifting, like they go from our dimension to their dimension.
yeah. I mean, it's like I said. I guess we'll get into what we believe at the end of the episode, but it's just like if such creatures existed, like how would we even know that they exist? But anyway, we'll cover that, I guess, at the end.
Yeah. So the next theory, and this is the one where it actually kind of makes sense that they could be helping us and not being these weirdos that like threaten you for no apparent reason or because they're the government and they think they know best. And that's that they're actually time travelers.
Okay. Oh,
So the Men in Black are future humans, or because we say they're a little bit off, they could be post humans. So after us, the Men in Black, that species became a thing, and that they're trying to manipulate or observe key events in histories, such as these UFO sightings.
gotcha.
Um, they, like I said, so they wear these suits, and they could be looking strange, outdated sort of suits, and they kind of have this advanced technology. Um, and then their apparent discomfort with present day, it's like they seem odd, they seem off, they could be discomfort by our present day. um, and the idea behind this is that more than likely they are here to observe events, or they're here, and part of the reason why they're trying to investigate and harass people is because they're trying to stop some sort of world ending event.
Huh. Okay.
So they're trying to be like superheroes.
So then that one would look more like the Men in Black we see in the movie.
Yeah, where
I
they're trying to like save the world.
I actually never saw Men in Black 3, but doesn't that one have to do with time travel?
Yeah. And the third movie, Will Smith, spoiler alert, but it's been out for 10 years now, I think. Will Smith has to go because they captured this alien dude and he was mad that he was arrested. So he broke out of prison and was going to time travel back in time to kill what's his name? The guy who's like Agent K. He's going to
Yeah.
time travel back in time to kill Agent K. And Will Smith had to go back in time and stop him. And we find out like the backstory of Will Smith's character was that he was kind of like raised inside the agency, and the reason why was because when he went back in time, what's his name? The alien dude was shooting something out of his hand, was fixing to kill K, and Will Smith's character's dad pushed K out of the way and got killed instead. So then Agent K kind of raised up Will Smith's character.
Okay.
But it was good. I mean, it wasn't as good as the other ones, but
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, for me, like that first one was tremendous.
Oh yeah,
I
nothing
don't
to beat.
remember much of the second one, although I feel like that one was pretty good too.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Next idea is that they could be tulpas or thought form manifestations. So the idea is that they are manifestations created by collective belief, psychic projections that become real through mass consciousness. They
interesting.
could be tied to Tibetan mysticism and modern paranormal psychology. Um,
Okay,
so the idea is that their behaviors align more with archetypes than rational human logic. This could explain why they appear after someone begins obsessing about UFOs or conspiracies and so forth. So the idea is just that they're like they're psychologically linked to us, and it's just
is it
like a psychic projection.
people seeing what they want to see kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you're thinking about aliens all the time, so any man in a suit that shows up to you, you're perceiving him as a Men in Black, when in reality he might be, I don't know, a vacuum salesman or something.
And you just kind of psycho project, or you might not. He might not even be real, and you become so obsessed with UFOs, you're just like, I see Men in Black, they're after me.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And that kind of will tie into the next theory, which is that they're psychological or hallucination phenomenon, which is that the experiences are the result of stress, sleep paralysis, or memory distortion, especially in those involved with traumatic or uncanny events. Um, the reason being, some accounts include dreamlike or surreal moments. Witnesses may be prone to suggestibility or involved in fringe topics. So that kind of ties back to where you witness the UFO and maybe it's real and it stresses you out because you're just like, holy crap, I just saw a UFO in my backyard. That it could stress you out, or you could, have a sleep paralysis moment where you think you see these Men in Black. There is a case where we'll talk about they actually appeared in somebody's room, which could kind of go into that sort of theory of sleep paralysis.
Right. See, my only thing with the sleep paralysis stuff is like, don't the Men in Black have a conversation with you? So, or am I wrong about that? Could they just be
They
talking?
do. Um,
Because
yeah. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with you. Sometimes you'll just see them from afar. One of the cases that we have, the guy never even talked to them; he just saw them. Um, but sometimes they do talk to you, and you talk back.
okay, yeah, because I was gonna say with sleep paralysis, like you're not moving, you're not talking back. If it was a sleep paralysis, it was, well, actually, I think you guys can tell right now. I've never had sleep paralysis, so I have no idea what it feels like or what happens. But
Yeah,
uh,
which I think I told I've told you I've had sleep paralysis before.
yeah, what was it like?
It was interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
we won't freak y'all out too much on this episode. Yeah, but again,
no, if you I think I mentioned it in another
we,
episode. So if you want to go back, you can listen
we
to that.
might. I wonder if one day we just do an episode just focused on sleep paralysis.
We could.
Mhm.
So the next idea and the last theory we have is that going back on the government theory, they actually are agents of a global shadow government, maybe Illuminati or Majestic 12. And this is the idea that they work for a secret global cabal that controls information, including alien knowledge. Um, and the reason is because there's consistent efforts to suppress disclosure across nations. Recurrent themes in witness and intimidation. It just kind of seems like I'm really, when we get to the theories, I'll let y'all know what I'm leaning towards, but um, it kind of still goes into the same idea of the government, except for it's the global, the Illuminati or the one world government, that they're the ones that are controlling the Men in Black to suppress this information. So, nobody's learning about it.
Yeah. So it seems that one seems like a modification of the government theory, but it's like a super government theory, maybe, or some kind of undercover conspiracy worldwide cabal thing. So
Yeah. So the idea of Men in Black really came forward. The biggest case of this, and this is somebody we'll go into probably, we might have his own episode, is Albert K. Bender. Okay. So now we're going to shift to witness accounts that can kind of maybe explain who the men in black are, what people have seen, and I'm going to save the best case for last because some of these are just like Albert K. He's the kind of godfather of this, so that's why we'll kind of cover him, and there'll be like some little incidences, and then we'll kind of get into what I think is one of the craziest incidences because it's not that long. Like from you can listen to the guy talk about it. It's about a 5-minute video. And I'm not going to reveal who it is just yet. But and then we'll get in our ChatGPT story, and then we'll kind of tell you what we think.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's rock and roll.
So who's Albert K. Bender? So he was a UFO researcher and enthusiast from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And in 1952, he founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau, or the IFSB, and was the first major civilian UFO organization. So, he was like, hey, I'm really into these UFOs, and I'm going to make my own civilian organization to investigate this. And he published a newsletter called Space Review, which began to attract attention from UFO buffs worldwide. So to kind of give you a little, quick on him, 52, he formed his own like little civilian government to investigate, UFOs. And he posted a newsletter so that people could write in their UFO encounters.
Okay.
However,
1
year after starting IFSB, he suddenly and mysteriously shut it all down.
Huh.
This is what was written in the final issue of Space Review. It's a kind of cryptic message, okay? The mystery of the flying saucers is no longer a mystery. The source is known, but any information about this is being withheld by order from a higher source.
Okay.
Yeah. So nobody knows what happened, right? He literally just in 1952 started this whole organization, posted a column, write me about your UFO experiences. And then it shuts down a year later. And all he says is the information's out there. Just somebody's not allowing me to say it.
Very interesting.
And that note freaked people out.
Sounds like
he gave no further details about this, okay? Until guess what year he finally revealed what happened?
2017. I don't know.
1962.
Oh, I'm way off. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah. So 9 years later, he released a book, and it was called Flying Saucers and the Three Men.
All right.
And this was basically, he published this book, and it is his entire account of what happened that caused him to shut everything down. He claims that in 1953, 3 men dressed in black suits who suddenly materialized in his bedroom came to visit him.
Freaky.
They then communicated telepathically to him, and they filled his room with this smell of sulfur, and there's a bright glowing blue light. These beings then telepathically told him to stop his UFO investigations immediately. Cease it, stop it. You're done.
Yikes.
He claimed that they were not human at all, possibly extraterrestrials or interdimensional entities in disguise, kind of going off of those theories.
The materialization and the telepathic speaking kind of would make me probably think the same thing too. So
yeah. Well, it gets crazier because he alleges that they took him on a kind of astral journey to a base in Antarctica.
Oh, shoot.
Where he learned aliens were harvesting Earth's resources like water and were planning to leave soon.
Weird.
And that's basically what happened.
Okay, then.
So, yeah.
That'll do it.
So, in 1953, he was visited by 3 men in suits in his bedroom. They communicated telepathically, and they flew him to Antarctica through an astral projection.
Sounds like a bad night. or a good night, depending on who you ask.
This is where we kind of get the first description of the men in black. He says they were cold, emotionless, and not entirely human. He claimed that they dressed in classic black suits, but more like otherworldly enforcers than G-men.
Okay.
And he said they were capable of appearing and disappearing instantly.
Huh. Yeah.
So
If he's telling the truth about all that, that's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, they're not human then, right? They're people don't speak telepathically to each other or materialize out of thin air. Like that's not something we as humans are capable of. So
yeah. So there are some theories, like I said, we're going to kind of go more into him because, like I said, he's kind of the godfather. So some people believe that it was probably a hoax or publicity stunt to kind of sell some of his books and to just kind of give a reason to why he wanted to shut down the IFSB.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
part of me is almost like I was like, was this dude high on shrooms and he just had a had a crazy hallucination night? But then also part of me is like, hey, maybe there's something there. I don't know. So
some people believe that he just kind of go on with what you said, the whole shrooms thing, that he just might have had a psychological episode. Apparently, people say he was highly anxious and suffered from migraines. Some say this could have just been sleep paralysis or some sort of mental health struggle.
mm, yeah, yeah,
Although there are those that believe that he had an early example of aliens contact mythology. His story predates the X Files, and it kind of shaped UFO lore by blending alien contact with paranormal horror, kind of a new angle at the time. So people were
yeah.
like, "Oh." But there are those that are in UFO circles that believe he may have gotten close to something real and was silenced because of it.
Which again, hey, if aliens don't want us to know that they exist, I mean that I guess if I was an alien that wanted to do that, that's one of the ways to do it, right? So
Yeah. Or maybe he stumbled upon something the government didn't want him to know about.
yeah,
Never know.
yeah. I mean, never rule out daddy government, right? And it's
Right.
their twisted hands that they stick in everywhere. So anyway,
We got three more cases before I give the really cool one.
okay,
Next up, we got the Harold Dahl experience. This is actually the earliest one from 1947. So in 53 was when you had Albert. 47 was when you had Harold. Um, Apparently, he was a harbor patrolman in the Puget Sound in Washington. And he claimed he saw 6 donut shaped flying objects. He then reported it. And then apparently, after reporting it, he was allegedly visited by a man in a dark suit who warned him not to talk about the incident.
interesting.
So this is, like I said, this is one of the earliest MIB cases, and some suspect it could have been a hoax, or
When
maybe it was a
when
government
did
cover.
when did that one happen?
47.
47. So I mean, these guys are relatively new, right? They weren't showing up in like the 1800s or anything like that.
No.
So, and again, that's where I feel like it's the government. I don't know. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
I
The
want to hear
next
stories
case,
before I firmly make up my mind.
yeah, the next case is in 1967. So about 20 years after Harold, 4 years after Albert's book came out. This one happened in Toledo, Ohio. Um, Richardson, this is one where we talk about the evidence. Richardson apparently hit a UFO with his car,
Oh,
and he claimed to have a piece of it.
that's
And
not.
then after that happened, 2 men in black visited him, demanded he hand over the medal, and threatened him when he said it had been sent for analysis. And apparently the medal was eventually lost. Don't know where the medal went. And the MIB were never identified.
These are. I mean, I gotta hand it to these guys. They are men on a mission. They know what they're doing. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They go in and they are like, "We are taking your evidence, or we are destroying it. Like we're shutting this down."
Oh yeah, this is going down. So yeah, imagine hitting a UFO with your car. First off, I've heard of some funny hit and runs, but
Yeah, I know. Like all out of all the things you could hit, possums, raccoons, deers, not deers, a UFO is definitely yeah, not something you
Yeah.
draw for every day. So
Next up, we've got Dr. Herbert Hopkins. This one happened in 1976, so we're getting a little bit more recent.
okay.
This one happened in Maine. So Hopkins was researching a UFO case when he was allegedly visited by a stranger, a pale man dressed in a black suit, who knew specific personal details and warned him to stop his investigation. The
Hmm.
visitor spoke in a robotic, emotionless manner and vanished mysteriously. Here's the weird thing: he had no hair, no eyebrows, or lips, and allegedly made a coin disappear in front of Hopkins.
Yeah, that is weird. You know, if somebody walks up to me and they don't have eyebrows, that it's very noticeable indeed.
No lips, that's different.
You're right. Oh yeah.
See, you know
I,
what's funny is people think I have no upper lip.
well, yeah, you got that caterpillar.
I
Uh,
know. It's great.
so, anyway,
The
I,
last case we got before we get into the really, really cool one,
okay.
um, is the Niagara Falls MIB encounter.
Oh shoot.
Want to take a guess when this one took place?
1980.
2008.
Oh wow. Oh, so this is very recent. Okay,
This is the first time we've captured the Men in Black on camera.
gotcha.
So this happened at a Sheraton Hotel in Niagara Falls. So these two mysterious, identical looking men in black suits entered a hotel asking to speak to a witness who had reported a UFO sighting. The security footage showed them lacking eyebrows and having unusually large, identical features. They never identified themselves. And the employee they were looking for at the hotel was reportedly so terrified that he went into hiding.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. So
Yeah. So imagine these two guys in suits showing up to your work and it scares you so bad you go into like hiding.
yeah, I mean, those must have been some guys in suits for you to be that terrified to not go out again. So
I know, right? All right. So our last encounter, there are, like I said, lots of encounters. These are just some highlights. The last encounter is by guess who?
Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I don't know.
No, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh really?
You know
When
who, you know who Dan Aykroyd is, obviously, right?
yeah, when did that happen?
This happened in 2002.
Uh,
So
yeah, I mean,
you
it's not
can.
you're talking about the comedian.
I'm talking about the Ghostbuster. I'm talking about the guy who's in Coneheads. I'm talking about the Blues Brother.
Are they the same? Wait,
Yeah,
I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah. Dan Aykroyd is the guy who created Ghostbusters and Coneheads, and he starred
Yeah.
in the movies.
Okay. We are okay. I'm looking him up now. Yeah, we are talking about the.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd.
Okay. He's also a comedian.
Oh yeah, I didn't know he's a comedian.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, you're not wrong. He also does Ghostbusters. But yeah, I've seen him do.
Well, you know, he actually is the one who came up with Ghostbusters. Like he wrote Ghostbusters.
Oh, I didn't know that about him.
Mhm.
Oh, that's very
He
interesting.
also wrote Coneheads. I don't know if he wrote Blues Brothers. I know he's in Blues Brothers.
I've never even heard of Coneheads, but I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and
It's a weird movie. We should
that.
watch it.
I'm gonna say yeah, that's freaky. But
It's a,
anyway,
it's hilarious, but it's yeah.
okay. So he had an encounter with the
But his encounter is very weird and strange. And I'm gonna say this. So I watched his interview, and you can watch his interview. Um, I had to like dig for it because apparently there was the original interview was put up on YouTube and actually was taken down for violation rights. But you can find the actual interview where he talks about it. And I read one of the comments, and upon reading the comment, I paid more attention to the video. I truly believe that he is speaking the truth. I don't think he's lying.
Fair enough. I mean, because he saw you. I'm guessing he saw UFOs first, right?
No, he did not see a UFO. What he did was actually even crazier and adds more to the mythos of the Men in Black.
Okay.
So, as you know, he wrote Ghostbusters, he wrote Coneheads. He's basically a big old UFOologist, okay? Like he believes in this sort of stuff. He believes in the paranormal, he believes in UFOs. In 2002, he wanted to come up with a TV show called Out There. Okay, Out There was going to be a TV show, and you could look up on IMDb. You could look up the information on this TV show because it was actually going to be a thing. The idea behind the TV show was he was going to interview people about UFO encounters and being abducted.
Right.
They had filmed 8 episodes before it got canceled.
Dang.
And its cancellation, the whole thing behind it is really, really freaky.
What happened?
Okay. So he claims that the Men in Black are responsible for the show being canceled. The interview I watched is where he went over what had happened. So he stepped outside of this building in New York City to have a cigarette. And while he was smoking his cigarette, he was on the phone with Britney Spears. Yeah, the
That is
Britney
quite
Spears.
that is quite the person to be on the phone with. But
I
okay.
know, right? They're apparently going to be doing an SNL skit, or not an SNL skit, like an SNL show together, an episode together.
He was a comedian. But anyway, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So he's going to do an SNL episode with her. While he was on the phone, he noticed across the street there's a black Ford, just a blacked out Ford. When he tried to look at the license plate, it was very fuzzy and he couldn't make out the words. So now I want to remind you, this is in New York City.
Okay.
Okay. A tall man stepped out of the vehicle
All right.
and looked directly at Dan Aykroyd and just stared at the man, stared at him the whole time.
I mean, sounds like a Tuesday night in New York.
Yeah. So, but here's the strange thing. Because, like I said, I want you to remember that this is in New York City.
Okay.
Dan's on the phone. He looks at the guy. He looks away. As soon as he turns back, the car's vanished.
Okay, that part's freaky. It's like, how did that happen?
2 hours later, after witnessing this, the show was going to be on Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi channel.
Right.
They called Dan and said, for reasons unknown, we're canceling the show. We're not going to film anymore.
Oh, that is really weird.
To this day, nobody has ever seen those 8 episodes.
Oh, they haven't released them?
They're lost.
Oh, they're lost. Okay. Well, what was the show about? It was called Out There?
It was called Out There. And like I said, it was going to be where Dan Aykroyd was going to interview people about experiencing UFOs and abductions.
Ah, I see. But the Men in Black stopped that from being released.
They stopped that from being released. And so, like I said, watching his body language, somebody made a comment, watch his body language and watch how he like kind of repeats information. It's not like he's telling a lie where he's got this thing rehearsed. It's like he's actually telling the truth that he encountered this.
Yeah.
So yeah, imagine seeing like I said, a blacked out, Ford, and then all of a sudden it disappears. 2 hours later, you get a phone call saying your TV show about extraterrestrials is being canceled for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Why?
Alrighty, so ChatGPT story, then we say what we think.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it, man.
Let's see. Let me find the right. Where is it at? Here we go. Yeah, and this is pretty freaky too. So,
all right. Will and Steve take on the Men in Black.
Yep, Beyond the Campfire, the Men in Black incident, recorded entry, undisclosed location.
Oh, okay.
Made it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
Stephen was the first to notice it. The black sedan had followed them for over 2 hours from the dusty roadside diner just outside Roswell all the way into the New Mexico desert. It never tailgated, never sped, just stayed 4 car lengths behind, smooth, precise, quiet. I think we're being followed, Stephen said, adjusting the rearview mirror of the SUV. Will, riding shotgun, pulled his hat lower against the sun and narrowed his eyes. Yeah, I clocked it back near that turnoff by the military fence. They haven't passed, haven't stopped. Stephen kept his voice low. instinctively glancing around. You think it's them? Will didn't answer at first. Then he muttered, wouldn't be the first time someone didn't like us poking around.
Mm. Uh,
Earlier that day, they had been recording an episode of Beyond the Campfire, chasing down rumors of a downed craft in the desert from the 80s. A whistleblower had sent them a map and coordinates with one warning: get in and out. If they find you, run. So, of course, they went. They found nothing at first, just broken scrub and rattlesnake tracks. Then they stumbled across it: a hunk of metal, burned and buried, with strange indentions and what looked like writing, letters, but not human. Stephen had taken photos. Will had pulled a fragment free. That's when the air got weird. The light dimmed and the silence grew too thick. They'd left in a hurry. Now, as twilight fell across the desert road, the black sedan behind them signaled. Stephen's heart jumped. They're turning too. Will reached down slowly, feeling the weight of the fragment in the glove compartment. Stephen, you still got that disposable phone? Stephen nodded. Left it under the seat. Good, Wilt said, flexing his fingers. We might need to call for help the old-fashioned way. They turned onto a dirt path that led to an abandoned radio tower, remote, forgotten, and perfect for vanishing. The black sedan followed.
mm.
They didn't see the two men until they were already outside the vehicle. They stood still behind the car. Identical suits, identical faces, almost like someone had described what a human should look like and got 95% of the way there. Their skin was too pale, their eyes too wide, their movements slightly off. Stephen's voice was barely a whisper. Will, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Will stood beside him, one hand at his side, the other gripping the recorder mic slowly. Don't talk. Let them speak first. The two men stepped forward in perfect sync. One raised a hand, not threatening, but wrong, like he was rehearsing what a hand gesture should be. You have encountered restricted phenomenon, one said. His voice was monotone, flat, too smooth. You have taken an item of significance. The second man blinked once. Return it. Forget the event. This is not a request. Stephen held his ground, though his heartbeat was hammering. We're independent investigators. We have the right to report. You do not. The first man's smile twitched, just a fraction too wide. If you speak of this, there will be consequences. Your transmissions will be silenced, your memories fragmented, your lives, he paused, tilting his head unnaturally, irreparable altered. Will reached in the glove compartment without breaking eye contact. He took the fragment. Y'all want this so bad? You tell me what it is first. A moment paused. The sky overhead shifted, a subtle hum rising, like static crawling under the skin. The second man stepped forward. Return it. Will tossed it at their feet. The two men turned without bending, without looking at each other, and walked back to the car. Stephen blinked. That's it? But the sedan didn't drive away. It simply vanished. One blink, it was there. The next, gone.
Freaky.
The wind picked up suddenly, carrying a chill that didn't belong in the desert. Will broke the silence. Stephen, you still got the recorder going? Stephen opened the pack and checked the battery and checked. The batteries were dead. Brand new hours ago. The backup recorder corrupted. Every camera glitched. The only proof they had was in their memory, and even that felt slippery, like the edge of it were already being erased. That night, back in the motel, Stephen wrote down everything they could remember while Will stared at the window, shotgun across his lap. He didn't sleep. The next morning, there was a note slipped under the door. Plain paper, blocky text, no handwriting. You were warned. And beneath it, forget the black suit. Remember the eyes. Stephen looked up. What do you think it means? Will looked into the hallway. Empty. But the sense of being watched hadn't lifted. He said only one thing. We just got too close.
Mm.
And the next podcast episode never aired. Their files went missing. The microphones picked up nothing but static. And in the background of one surviving clip, If you listen very carefully, you might just hear someone whisper, "This never happened." End of log, redacted. Beyond the Campfire remains on indefinite hiatus.
Wild. Absolutely wild. My goodness. Yeah, I'm getting some tingles just listening to that.
I know.
Theories.
Yeah. Who do you think? Who do you think the black men in black could be?
I I'm skeptical that they exist, but if they do exist, my theory is it's a government agency, and yeah, nothing particularly supernatural going on, just daddy government protecting its interests. So now, of course, that doesn't explain, like with Dan Aykroyd's experience of like the things vanishing all of a sudden or things like that.
And I have a theory that I think could tie into that.
Okay, sure, yeah. But anyway, my that's my theory. It's a government agency. They're trying to hide alien stuff.
Mhm.
The supernatural stuff. I mean, hey, if you're trying to hide alien stuff, I'm sure you have some advanced technology that the general public doesn't know about. But I don't think the Men in Black are necessarily aliens or anything like that. I think it's just dudes that are like, yeah, we're working for the government. That's my 9 to 5 job. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Men in Black could be real. I think there is a very high chance that they could be real, just because, like I said, listening to Dan Aykroyd's interview and how he kind of described it, and there's these people. I mean, we're gonna make Steven a believer in aliens. I think there is something out there, and knowing our government, I think they would want to hide it. Now, I think the way to explain the whole disappearing, if the government is studying UFOs, if they're stopping people from witnessing this, if they're taking evidence, what if they're based in Area 51 and the reason why they can disappear is because they have harnessed alien technology to teleport?
well, and that's a thought where I'm like, yeah, again, assuming the Men in Black actually do exist, they're gonna have technologies that we don't know about. So
Exactly. So
that
I think the Men in Black could exist. I think they are a part of the government, and I think they're out there trying to hide UFO incidences and supernatural incidences to cover everything up.
there you go. So, yeah, y'all in the audience are s'mores, as we like to call you guys. What do you think? Do you guys think the Men in Black are real? If so, what are they? Well, any last minute thoughts, comments, questions, concerns before
No,
wrap this up?
I think that's it. You got anything else?
Cool. The last thing I would say is I'll say this one last thing. If they are real, dude, I kind of want to join. Like, I
I
want to,
want to get the suit.
yeah, I want to know like alien stuff, and I want to. I guess I would feel a little bit bad about being the rain on the parade of some investigators' findings, but yeah, you put on the suit, you're using cool government technology. So yeah, Men in Black, if you guys are recruiting, I might be interested. So
Oh, that's funny.
we'll see. So
Well, that's all I got, Steven.
all right, y'all have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, we got a Men in Black.
All right, all right. I want you guys to look into the little camera. Everything you just heard here never happened. You happen to be tuning into a Beyond the Campfire episode. You don't know anything about the Men in Black. You never even heard about the Men in Black. Everything about us, you never heard.